college football, where UCLA has fired head coach DeShaun Foster just 3 games into a second season in Westwood. That's the latest from our Matt Zenitz. The Bruins are off to an 0-3 start and were dominated by New Mexico in a 35-10 loss on Friday in Los Angeles. Foster finishes with a 5-10 record at his alma mater, going 5-7 in his first season. UCLA is on bye this week before opening up Big Ten play on September 27th in Evanston against Northwestern. Let's welcome in college football analyst Brandon Marcello to react to this news. And 15 games into DeShaun Foster's head coaching career at UCLA, he is now fired. What went wrong for him?
Seems like everything. You know, this preseason, we probably should have gotten an inkling. He was barring reporters from being at practice. I think they kind of knew that they were not very good this season. And you just can't get blown out at home by a New Mexico squad that lost their head coach and then obviously was also looking at replacing a lot of players. You weren't just beaten. You were blown out. You were owned at home. The players did not give a lot of effort late in that game. And so they had to make a change. I was kind of surprised by the timing. I thought they were going to wait and see after this bye week how they would perform at Northwestern, because they had yet to play a Big Ten game. But they went ahead and decided, let's make the move now. We've seen enough. But this is probably also an indictment on athletics director Martin Drummond, who made this hire, and there were questions about it even back then. And I think a lot of people would say, if you were going to make a decision this early in the year, why didn't you just make it back in December after his first year?
There was a lot of excitement, I think, headed into the season for the Bruins, especially almost 5 months ago to the day, landing the #1 player in the transfer portal in Nico Iamaleava. We thought that Nico was coming in to save DeShaun Foster's job. Why has that not been the case in this 0-3 start to the season?
You know, Nico has done actually kind of well, considering what he came into. The pieces around him are just not there. They are just not very good everywhere across the board. Defensively, a lot to be desired. This is a program, I think, offensively and defensively, is just simply lacking an identity. It's a complete mess. I don't think you can pin this on one player, so to speak, when you talk about why are they struggling on the field. I think this is a coaching problem and trying to put pieces together that just don't fit together. Nico Iamaleava is a very talented quarterback, but he's not going to work in a system where he does not have 1 or 2 explosive receivers, let alone an offensive line that can't block and run the ball, and a defense that's very, very porous.
And there was a statement released by the athletic director where they essentially thanked DeShaun Foster for his very short tenure. Of course, he's a Hall of Fame player for UCLA, so you got to be kind on the way out. But also mentioning that he took on a challenge as they were transitioning to the Big Ten. So looking at this job in the scope of that conference, we've seen the jokes online, Brandon. We've seen what that bowl looks like on game day. It's bleak out in Westwood. So how do we view this job in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I think the major indictment here is when Chip Kelly left a head coaching job there to go be an OC at Ohio State. He knew that things were changing in this new NIL era. He also wanted to go win a championship, and he didn't believe he could do it at UCLA in the Big Ten. You know, there's a lot of travel logistics there, having to go out east from the West Coast. Also, there's just not much of a commitment to football there financially. So when they go out and look for candidates here, they're going to have to show and be truthful with them. This is what we foresee for the football program, and this is how we're going to help you. Because if you're not going to go full steam ahead in football, you're going to have issues there at UCLA. The reason why, a big reason why they are in the conference of Big Ten, they're able to get in there, is because they were able to partner with USC and get in there. And the big moneymaker is football. As important and as historic as basketball is at UCLA, they've got to get this football program back on track to be relevant at all in the foreseeable future in the Big Ten.
So Tim Skipper will take over the interim duties, but looking ahead, who are some potential candidates for this job?
You know, very, very early here, I would look at a Matt Entz there at Fresno State. He's had a very successful career on the lower levels of college football, but also jumped into the bigger levels to be a coordinator and now is a head coach at Fresno State. And what about a Dan Mullen at UNLV, finding new life there in his first year? They're undefeated at the moment. If they continue to win and making noise out west with the model they have provided there and being able to bring in a lot of Power 5 transfers to revamp that entire roster overnight, and if they're able to contend in the Mountain West, I think Dan Mullen could get a big look there. But the key here is, will athletics director Martin Drummond be making the call? I have my doubts because DeShaun Foster decided to go with him when there were other candidates on the board. A lot of people just said, well, this must be a stopgap hire for them. Well, he said, no, it's not. We're going full bore ahead with him. But very much behind the scenes, it didn't seem like that from the financial commitment, but also just everything they're putting around him. Yes, they spent some money on to get quarterback Nico Iamaleava, but they didn't put the right pieces together around him either. A lot of questions in the athletics department, starting at the top with their athletics director.
Yeah, once again, just 15 games into his tenure, DeShaun Foster fired at UCLA. Some other coaching news that we've seen today, per our Matt Zenitz, Virginia Tech is expected to fire Brent Pry as their head coach after an 0-3 start to the season. What's your reaction to that news?
Yeah, my sourcing told me that decision was reached last night, almost immediately after the game. That was going to happen quickly if they lost, and they lost big. They got blown out, and I know the score looks closer than it really was. There was a stretch there for 4 quarters dating back to the Virginia Tech Vanderbilt game where they were outscored 64-0. Absolutely embarrassing tenure there for Brent Pry. 16-24 overall, 0-3 this season. They get Wofford next week, which is a win, should be a win. They obviously had seen enough. They don't want to give Brent Pry any more momentum and lengthen that leash before they go into ACC play here. Virginia Tech is a program that has historically been great because of Frank Beamer, but since he's left, they've been incredibly inconsistent and are going down the wrong slope here. Athletics director Whit Babcock, I've been saying this all preseason. He went in front of his board of trustees in the summer and said, we're a program that needs to win 9 games for us to make some money because of the new ACC or the revenue sharing they've got in that structure. They reward teams with more revenue that win more games. And the way he saw it, they needed to win 9 games on average to get some money to a point where they could be competitive. Virginia Tech has been nowhere near that under Brent Pry. And after an 0-3 start, you win out, you go 9-3. And now you're going to even try him to have that miracle run. Everything's been set in stone there. That firing will happen today. That is a very, very intriguing job. I've had a lot of people this summer expecting that job to come open, talking about candidates that they believe would be willing to jump there. They're going to have a really, really strong candidate pool if no other big jobs open up, and yet their job's still open, say, come in mid-December.
Yeah, that's what you think is the benefit to making this move early in the season, is you get a jump on that search. So who are some potential candidates? As you said, this job has been expected to open for quite some time.
Why not bring the son home?
Yeah.
Shane Beamer, South Carolina head coach, son of Frank Beamer, beat Virginia Tech in their season opener. You know, I've talked to Shane Beamer in the past. He's kind of looked down on the idea, or not looked down, that's the wrong choice of words. He has said, you know, I don't think I'd be really interested. I mean, following in your father's footsteps, but he's got a lot of great ties there at Blacksburg. It's where he grew up. I think that would maybe pull at him a little bit to go try and resurrect the program. I know Shane Beamer could probably do it. He's done it at South Carolina. Why couldn't he do it in Virginia Tech? He's got like a lot of great connections there, a lot of great recruiting ties. He would be someone to watch right off the get-go there. But I think they're going to have plenty of other considerations to make. I would throw a name out there. Why not Curt Cignetti? He's had a lot of success in that region. There's a lot of great coaches that have come through. James Madison, Old Dominion, which Virginia Tech just lost to. And Curt Cignetti, yes, he's doing great things in Indiana. But if Virginia Tech can set him up with bigger paydays and a situation where he can maybe win some championships in the ACC and really fall behind him, why wouldn't Curt Cignetti consider that job? I think that Virginia Tech's very much a sleeping giant. They're one of those programs as an athletics department that, depending on what the next iteration of college football looks like, could be a very, very hot team for the next round of realignment. I think they could be a team that would fit into the SEC. That has been the chatter for the last 15 years, a team that might be targeted. So if we're looking at super leagues and everything in the future, Virginia Tech's got to take a big swing and get a big hire, because this is a program that's very desirable in this maybe next round of realignment over the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, this is absolutely not the time to be left behind in college football. They got to get this hire right. Both UCLA and Virginia Tech, 2 jobs expected to become open by the end of the day. Brandon, Marcello, thank you so much. I'm sure you and the crew will be talking about this and all things college football on the College Football Insiders. Our friend Matt Zenitz, who has been breaking this news all day long, will be on it as well. So make sure that you are watching on YouTube by scanning that QR code or listening wherever you get your podcasts.